All right, so today we're going to discuss the missing piece to your weight loss puzzle. So this is for you if you have yo-yo dieted over and over and over in your entire life. You've lost weight before, but it hasn't stuck. And you're starting to piece together the fact that the diets that you're doing are not working because you're not actually able to continue with the diets long term or sustain them for the long haul. And so you're figuring out that you can't just keep going through this cycle, but you're not sure what the missing piece is to stop it. And so this is also for you if you really dislike tracking things on like MyFitnessPal or Noom or using Weight Watchers and doing things that are very, very restrictive, because ultimately you know to lose weight for the long haul, you need to be less restrictive and have more of a lifestyle, but you're really just unsure exactly how to piece that together. So that's what we're going to cover today in this training here. So basically, if you are somebody who's like my client, Carolyn, who is really tired of rules and restrictions and you've yo-yoed your whole life, she is somebody who had lost 50 to 100 pounds multiple times in her life before, but now she is crossing the mark of 120 pounds down and soon to be 140 pounds down, hitting her goal target. And the reason for that is because we removed the restrictions, we created the lifestyle, and we solved the weight loss puzzle and actually put two and two together of it's not about restricting, it's not about excessive calorie counting, but it is about figuring out the habits that are missing that make this sustainable and consistent so that she can keep the weight off after. And so you might feel like it's like this impossible trade-off, right? So I often like to describe it as the impossible trade-off because it feels like you either don't eat anything that you like and you see the results that you want, or you eat absolutely everything that you like and you just, throw it all to the wind and you say, I'm just gonna enjoy myself, I'm gonna eat in a balanced way, but then you get nowhere. And so we're basically kind of always toggling between, okay, well, I have to not have a social life, I can't eat out, I have to just say no to these things, to, okay, well, I'm just gonna screw it, I'm just gonna go out, I'm just gonna have a good time, I'm not gonna worry about it. And there really is no in between. So basically, we have to really address what is that in between. And the secret to it is that it's not about the plan. Everybody is overly concerned about the plan. The plan is exactly how many calories should I be eating? And what do my meals need to look like? And what do I need to meal prep on Sunday? And what foods specifically should I be eating versus avoiding? And what do my workouts need to look like? That's the plan. The problem is that if it was the plan that was the solution, then you would have gotten to your goals and stayed there already. But we are human and we won't be able to follow a plan 100% of the time. And so many of us toggle between I'm following the plan and I'm on it to I'm off it. But when we're off the plan, what happens? We typically experience a lot of guilt and shame and frustration for, darn it, I couldn't stick to it. Why didn't I just have more discipline? And then we self-sabotage. Whether that means that we go totally overboard and we say screw it and we overeat like crazy, or it could just mean that we don't pay attention and we just say, you know what, I'm just gonna enjoy this. I'm not gonna go overboard, but it'll be fine. And a lot of times that can do more damage than we think, because there is an in-between, there is a middle ground to following the plan and just not following the plan that we don't know of. And that lack of consistency is really what's keeping us from being able to see results in the long run. So again, it's not the plan. If it was just the plan, ChatGPT would have saved us all and we would all be super fit. But we're not. So let's address what that in-between is. And the real reason that we don't have this in between is just honestly because it was never taught. If you think about what you were taught growing up about dieting, about weight loss, is typically taught to us by maybe social media, magazines, or our mother, usually is a really big influential factor. And the generation above us, the millennials, typically are really diet centric. It's Weight Watchers, it's count calories, it's restrict as much as possible, it's the 500 calorie diet. And that's the stuff we grew up learning and seeing and modeling. And so we never learned foundational nutrition habits. We never learned the decision-making frameworks, the cognitive exercises that we need to go through in order to actually be able to be adaptable and flexible to life happening and making it work even in those in-between scenarios. So what we need is a foundation of habits that are going to make it easy for us to sustain our progress long term. And so those habits will include things like eating balanced plates, being able to prioritize protein, having more fruits, more vegetables, starchy carbohydrates, working out regularly, strength training, moving our bodies. Absolutely. But what did I just tell you? It's not just about the training and the nutrition. A lot of times people want to get in shape and they hire a nutritionist or they hire an in-person trainer to solve those issues individually, but they are not addressing the root cause of why they're not actually getting to their results in the first place. It's about having, yes, that targeted plan that quantifies how to get to, say, the goal weight and the goal physique. That is a part of it, but it's literally like 10% of it. The other 2 portions of this journey that really tie it all together and make it sustainable are your mindset and your lifestyle. And so with your mindset, you might be someone who struggles with all or nothing thinking, perfectionism, self-criticism, negative self-talk. All of these things and more contribute to not just our psychology, right? We think that it kind of operates in a bubble. It's just all the things that go on in our head, and then there's the plan that we need to follow over here. When in reality, these things are incredibly intertwined, and our thoughts govern our emotions and therefore our actions and our behaviors, therefore our results. And so with that being said, our mindset drastically impacts the behaviors that we choose. For example, if we struggle with the all or nothing mentality, then if we are not able to follow the plan all the way, then what do we typically do? We say, well, I'll just relax this weekend. I'm not even gonna worry about it. When in reality, there is a lot of gray area in between that we could address to be way more on track than we think we could be without a ton of effort if we just put some intention and thought into planning it. If you struggle with perfectionism, it's kind of the same thing where we are expecting ourselves to be absolutely perfect. We're expecting our results to come in at a certain point. And when we don't see those results, and let's say we step on the scale and it goes up on one morning, we get frustrated and then we make emotionally charged decisions throughout the day out of frustration. And a lot of times that can look like self-sabotage or saying, you know what, what's the point? And so a lot of times our expectations play a role, and our expectations being way too high or just unrealistic for the types of progress that we're supposed to see. Or self-criticism, self-judgment, negative self-talk, essentially the opposite of self-compassion, can really get us down and in the dumps and feeling negative about our progress, whether that is comparing ourselves to others or just being generally mean to ourselves as a whole, because we are typically our own worst critic. What this does is it just kind of digs us into a hole that we're trying to crawl our way out of at all times. And it's not helpful. A lot of times we think that, well, that's motivating. You know, I need to beat myself down in order to see better progress. But for most of us, and especially us women who have a lot on our plate, we're always juggling a ton and we're always trying to be perfect at everything. It actually is very counterproductive to seeing better adherence, better progress, better consistency when we are being unkind to ourselves. And so something we need to learn is how to speak to ourselves in a way that is the way we would speak to a friend about their progress. How might we encourage them? And we have to learn how to be our own best cheerleader and support system, because no one else is going to do that for us. And if it comes from within, it comes from that good place of acceptance and compassion, we're actually going to be able to get farther rather than stopping ourselves short. And if you really resist against that sentiment as a whole, I would just ask yourself, listen, you're in this position right now. You've been mean to yourself this whole time about your progress and about how things are going, and you haven't seen the results that you wanted to see yet, and you haven't been able to keep them. So does beating yourself down to try to motivate yourself actually work, or do you just feel like it's a useful strategy because you don't know anything else? And then next is our lifestyle component. So our lifestyle includes things like our stress management, our time management, our sleep, and our routines. So if we don't have an understanding of these things, and if we don't look at our health and fitness in the grander picture of our entire life and all of our life's routines and responsibilities and stressors and how it all bleeds together, then again, we're only going to be successful in the 1% scenarios where nothing happens and everything's going great. And we all know that life will always happen. Stressors will always come. And to wait for a time that those things are not happening is completely unrealistic and is going to keep you waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for literally probably the rest of your life, because stress is always present. And so we have to learn how to manage and optimize our time, manage and optimize our routines, manage and optimize our stress and our responses to life happening and those things happening, because we will have a packed schedule. We will have trouble making the time. We will have stressors that come up. And if we do not have the appropriate coping mechanisms or tools or strategies or frameworks to handle those things, then we are just going to allow life to happen to us, be a victim in those situations, and not make progress anytime something comes up. But that's no way to live. And the people who are ultimately successful in their journey are people who take that into their own hands and vet their time, vet their stress, and really work on those skills, those tools, those strategies. Those are things that we can actively work on. So things like triaging your schedule and really identifying the priorities that you need to be working on at any given point in time and how to fit your priorities into your schedule. How to manage stressful events, emotional events. A lot of times we cope with these things with food or with comfort or things that actually deter us from our health and fitness goals. We need to learn better coping strategies to stress and to emotional events. And that can be something that changes. Ultimately, if you turn to food or alcohol typically for stress, you can change that and you can turn that around. And it doesn't have to be something to where every time you're stressed, you are headed to the pantry or headed to the freezer. So that's the lifestyle and the mindset piece that really governs how the execution of the nutrition plan and the nutrition habits and the training actually comes together. So the missing piece to your weight loss puzzle that you have been kind of probably lacking is the guidance in those two areas, because everyone out there, every coach, every Facebook group, every Instagram guru is going to give you nutrition tips and they're going to give you workout tips. But what they're not going to give you is the ability to integrate health and nutrition and fitness into your life and actually make it sustainable with your mindset and your lifestyle, and giving you those tools that actually are just the vehicle for you to get better at time management, stress management, your mindset, and growth as a whole human in every other area of your life. And that's where fitness really becomes this amazing vehicle for all of your personal development. And the best part is that, we haven't really talked about fat loss per se, but the example that I gave was our client Carolyn, who's lost over 120 pounds now. And so fat loss ultimately comes from addressing your lifestyle, your time, your stress, and your mindset. And when you do that and you integrate it into the nutrition plan, the training plan, you're going to be so much more successful in the short term because you can actually stick to it, and also in the long run with your fat loss goals, because you can keep it off for good versus constantly yo-yoing because you're missing those two giant components. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully this filled some gaps for you. And that's really where our coaching comes in here at PCC. We are pretty much, solely focused, other than obviously giving you the protocols with nutrition and training, but that's only a small portion. Where the coaching comes in is in that lifestyle, in that mindset. And fitness is just the vehicle to really spark those conversations so that you can start to grow and develop and build these tools and habits and skills in your life. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that your attention is the most valuable resource that you could give us. So thank you so much, and I'll hope to see you back next week.